Let me teach you a little something that they call the Hegelian dialectic. So the media and the politicians are working together on this. And the Hegelian dialectic is what they call problem, reaction, solution. What does that mean? That means that the politicians, or whatever, the cabal, deep state, I mean, you can give it a ton of labels. The bad guys, they create a problem. And then the media tells you how to react to that problem. And then the politicians are standing there ever so conveniently with a solution, which typically means taking away some of your rights for your safety, for your health, for whatever. They make it sound all good and fluffy, and they get you to actually ask for it. But what this means, or what this does, I should say, is it is a method for you to ask them for your own slavery. You are literally asking our government to enslave you. Wake up, folks. None of the stuff they do is for your own good. None of it. And if they ever say it's for the greater good, you know it is definitely not for your best interest. Higher gas prices because of the Ukraine. Oh, it's for the greater good. Nope. Not one bit. Because they're still buying oil from Russia. They're still selling them uranium. Good old HRC, Hillary Rodham Clinton, sold Russia 20% of our uranium. Don't believe me? Look up Uranium One. That's the government deal where they sold Russia, supposedly our nuclear enemy, our uranium. 20% of it. Crazy, I know. The problem is that the truth is stranger than fiction. And many people know this. Too many of them are silent about it, out of fear of retribution and whatever 100 excuses you have. Some of them valid reasons, but I mean, it is what it is. A lot of folks don't want to say nothing about it, but the truth is the truth, period. And there's a bunch of us that are willing to speak the truth, especially because in this wonderful, beautiful, glorious country of ours, we have this beautiful treasure called the freedom of speech. January 6th, people used their freedom of speech, and now they're being persecuted, prosecuted, incarcerated, thrown into solitary confinement, starved, tortured, frozen, you name it. People died and lost their lives. January 6th, not one Capitol Police officer was killed by any protesters, but 5 protesters were killed by Capitol Police. Funny how they are never mentioned. But yet, the false narratives of Capitol Police being killed by protesters have been pushed from day one. Did some Capitol Police lose their lives? Yeah, absolutely. And it's a tragedy because they're also American citizens. They are also beneficiaries of those freedoms that people on January 6th were speaking up to protect. Officer Sicknick, my heart goes out to his family. They lost somebody that they love. And I find it deplorable that the media and the politicians with the Hegelian dialectic are using his death as a pawn because they're saying he was killed by a protester when he actually died of a stroke. It's awful. I hope the family speaks up and says something about the government and the politicians and the media using them as pawns for their agenda. Because that is disrespectful to Officer Sicknick. It is degrading his life and his legacy. And my heart goes out to him. 5 January 6 protesters were killed, murdered by Capitol Police. But you don't hear a word about them because it doesn't fit the media's narrative. It doesn't fit in their Hegelian dialectic. They can't get you to give up your rights if people find out that Capitol Police ruthlessly beat to death an unarmed woman because she was using her freedom of speech. Their narrative won't stand when the people find out that a Capitol Police officer or security or whatever department he belonged to, under a subordinate to Nancy Pelosi, shot an unarmed woman who was no threat without warning inside the Capitol building. Their narrative doesn't hold up when they find out that Capitol Police shoved a protester off of the second-story balcony of the Capitol. The list goes on and on. They try to smear those that were killed. Roseanne Boylan, beat to death with nightsticks. The media put out that she overdosed on drugs. Shame, shame. Ashley Babbitt served our country honorably in the United States Air Force, but she was smeared all across the media as a terrorist that deserved to be shot. An unarmed woman. They say she deserved to die. Shame. We proudly stand in solidarity with every single American citizen that was at January 6th with the intent to peacefully protest, because they are the ones now being incarcerated, thrown in jail without due process, without trial, without being convicted. Indefinite detention, right? Heard that term before. It was supposed to be for Islamic terrorism and ISIS and Taliban terrorists that come over here to try to blow up buildings and do crazy terrorism stuff. But what actually happened is that they're being used. It's weaponized. The National Defense Authorization Act has been weaponized against American citizens because they are using their freedom of speech. Think about that. You know, it's pretty bad if you say something that the establishment doesn't agree with and they throw you in Facebook jail for 30 days. Now they've upgraded to throwing you into a federal detention center indefinitely because you say something that they don't agree with. This is just the beginning. If folks don't wake up, they're coming after you next. They got the J6ers out of the way because they're the ones that would be most willing to stand up, speak out, and use that freedom of speech to outwardly express their derision to the state of affairs, especially when it comes to election integrity. That is the base rock foundation of our nation's principles and laws. You don't have a safe election, you no longer have a country. That's why voting is extremely important. And if anybody tells you to not go out and vote, they don't have your best interest in mind. But our J6ers understood this, so they spoke out. And then they rounded them all up one by one, almost 800 people now that they've arrested. For what? Peacefully protesting, which is protected in the Constitution. But yet, the media makes it sound like they're the bad guys. Grandma came to the Capitol and sang the national anthem. Now she's indefinitely detained in a federal detention center without trial, without being convicted. They label her a terrorist. But yet, other organizations burnt down half of our country for months on end. And those same politicians that are persecuting the January 6 inmates were calling for those terrorists that were burning down our country to raise money to get them bailed out, touted them as heroes. Shame, shame. But somehow those that have been arrested for January 6 can still show love of country, still have the American resolve to see past the tyranny and understand what our country means and what it stands for. So they sing the national anthem every day at 9 p.m. Eastern. We sing with them. I'm a J6er. I'm out on bond. And so I'm using what little bit of freedom I have left until I have to go face Uncle Sam and ask you from the bottom of my heart, sing with us. Simple way to silently, peacefully protest, just by singing your national anthem. And use the hashtag #SingForFreedom. Post a video of you singing the national anthem with that hashtag, and hopefully this stuff goes viral. I want to blow up the internet with American love and unity. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. It's pretty simple, peaceful, patriotic, show love and unity. They can't throw you in jail for singing the national anthem. And if they do, then we have much bigger problems. Sing for freedom. God bless you.